Hello again, Craig here from theprepperstop.com. Here to talk about emergency water. Now, full disclosure, I do also sell water treatment systems for making clean water from a lake, pond, stream, river, whatever. But we're going to talk about practical prepping where you don't have to spend a single dime to be able to survive for up to 2 weeks. For instance, now, why I say 2 weeks, because in this country, in the United States, we have not had an emergency that would require anybody to really, truly have to survive for more than 2 weeks. We just haven't. Not during our lifetime, not during your parents' or grandparents' lifetime. We've been fortunate in this country. But it happens all over the world. So I'm not saying you may not want to prepare for a longer duration of time. I'm just saying, for all practical purposes, very likely the statistics show you won't have to prep more than 2 weeks at a time. You already will have 2 weeks worth of food storage in your house. If you just start looking in your refrigerator and freezer and cabinets, some things you haven't seen in years in the back of your cabinets, you already have about 2 weeks of food storage. You also have 2 weeks of water storage in your house too. We're going to show you how. But I have people coming to my table all the time, asking about storing water. How do I store all this water? I want like 55-gallon drums all over the place. They want to store thousands of gallons of water in their house and make it safe to drink. Well, that's going to take some work. You need to do some research on that. If you truly want to go that way, adding chlorine and some other things, that's fine if you want to do that. Honestly, you don't need to, but what you really need to do, what my biggest recommendation is, learn how to make clean water from a surface water source. A lake, a pond, a stream, a river, even a ditch or a swamp. There are systems that you can find that will do that, will make it. And if most of us live east of the Mississippi River, we have water sources, surface water sources, within a mile. If you live out west, that's obviously a different story. And if you're on the ocean, there's different types of systems you're going to need for desalination, distillation, or reverse osmosis to make the water safe. But most of us live very close to a water source where it doesn't take a lot of energy to go get water in buckets or whatever and bring it back and treat it. So that's your ideal source. And instead of trying to store thousands of gallons of water, have a way to make clean water from a surface water source near you. That's my best recommendation, but you may not even need to do that because you already have water storage in your house right now. Here, let me take the camera out of here. The tripod. That's right, your water heater you have at your home right now has about between 30 and 40 gallons in it, ready to use. But you do need to do a little bit of prepping, a little bit of knowledge beforehand on how to do that. So, this would be enough for a family. A small family, depending on how much you're using. Now, most people will say you need about 1 gallon of drinking water, safe drinking water, per day per person. So if you use it strictly for drinking, that's going to last a long time for even a pretty decent sized family. The water will be safe under the process of pasteurization, having been heated at about 120 degrees for a long period of time. There won't be any viruses, bacteria, cryptosporidium, or Giardia in this tank. So, but you need to do a little bit of work to make this water safe to drink. And if you want more water than this, if you're going to use it for hygiene and some other things, which of course you will want to do probably, then you're going to have to recalculate how much water you need. But for strictly drinking purpose, for true survival, this will go a long way that you already have in your house right now. Now, but there's something you need to do, some things you need to know. First of all, this is the main thing. The valve on the bottom. Now this valve is on the bottom, and you can open this valve, and by gravity the water will flow, so you don't need power. The tank may be under pressure at first and it might squirt out, but then it's just going to dribble out. It's just going to run out by gravity. But you're going to need to make sure you exercise this valve every so often. Depending on how often is that, it really depends on how much sediment builds up in your tank and what type of water, whether it's municipal water or well water. Yeah, sediment will build up in this tank. If you let it go long enough, you could have a lot of sediment build up to where when you open up this valve, nothing comes out at all, because it's so filled with sediment. But while it's under pressure, during normal times and during non-emergencies, you need to open up this valve and drain out water out of the bottom of this valve. It washes out all the sediment at the bottom of the tank into your bucket, and then maybe go a gallon or so past that to get out the water, and then you'll keep this free of sediment. So if you do that, after you do that a few times, you'll know how much sediment you build up and know how often you'll need to exercise this valve. The other issue with these valves is sometimes when you go to close them, they won't even close. You'll have sediment or something build up in there, and you won't be able to close it all the way and you'll have water dribbling out unless you have enough containers to catch everything. You're going to end up losing all your emergency water. So you don't really want to do that. But if you keep that valve exercised, that problem should be eliminated. Remember, you won't be able to run out to the valve depot and buy a new valve if this fails. So you want to keep that exercise to keep it working properly. If it does dribble out, here's what you do. In emergency, take a garden hose. You'll see there's threaded fittings on these valves. You like just a standard garden hose fixed up the end. Then you put your garden hose up at a higher level where gravity will keep it from flowing out. So in emergency, if you haven't exercised that valve, and as long as if water comes out of there, hook a garden hose up to it, to the top of your tank. By gravity, you'll keep the water from running out. Generally, you'll want to open up a valve somewhere in your house on the hot water size so the water flows out easier. Plus, you're going to get the benefit of having the water that's stuck in these pipes also as storage water. Yeah, on the cold water side too. You can open up these valves. You can go to your basement or wherever the lowest part of your water system is. You'll find generally there'll be a valve down at the bottom somewhere, and you'll have several more gallons of water that's stuck in your pipes all throughout your house. Go to the highest level, open up a valve in a cold water system, cold and hot, and then the water will run out of that valve at the bottom. It won't come out of your tank, the water heater tank. You'll have to do that separately through the valve at the bottom. But you'll be able to get several more gallons out of your water system that way. So you'll have not only this 30 to 40 gallons here, you might have more like 40 to 50 gallons in your house right now ready to be used. Now, so let's say you want to prepare for more than just 2 weeks. Well, or you have a very large family, or you're going to have a greater need for water. Here's what you can do for very little money. Get more water heaters. That's right, even ones that don't work. As long as the pressure part of it is, as long as the tank's not leaking, maybe it's got burned out elements or whatever. Doesn't matter. You can add on the cold side of this, you can add another water heater or another water heater, another water. You can have as many water heaters as you want in series so that the water comes from either your municipal system or from your well, comes into the very first tank. Then it flows into the second tank, third tank, whatever. And this is the last tank, the one that you're using right now as your water heater. And then it heats your water up, and then you have hot water as normal. And then now all of a sudden you have maybe hundreds more gallons of water stored already that keeps replenishing all the time because the water from the whole hot water system runs through those tanks continuously. And so you're always going to have fresh water in those tanks. You don't have to worry about adding chlorine or any of that stuff. Any additional tanks you add, you'll also have to exercise those valves in the bottom, same way as this one. You'll also want to exercise this pressure relief valve on occasion here, but the same method. This valve can fail too if you don't exercise this once in a while. Most everybody recommends exercising that valve as well. So you can have a whole lot of water stored with very little money. Water heaters don't cost much, even working ones. You can use as tanks. You could also hook up a bigger tank in the same method if you want to find, as long as it's able to withstand the pressure of your water system, possibly up to 50 pounds pressure, I think is what you need. And just plumb them in series. It wouldn't be hard to do yourself or have a plumber, but any plumber could easily do it if you didn't know how to do it yourself. So that'd be a way to have a lot more water that would maintain fresh all the time, and you wouldn't have to be adding chlorine, and then you have a longer period. But even with that, if the power goes out for a long period of time, like a year, like people think that like an EMP, then you will need a lot of water. But that's where the surface water source comes in, where if you can make clean drinking water from a surface source, you don't have to worry about all this stuff because you already have enough here for a couple weeks. It becomes a really big perpetual problem like an EMP that shuts the grid down for a year or more. That's where you need that surface water source. It's so important to make sure that you can make clean drinking water from a surface water source. That's really, really the best way to go if you think it could go beyond 2 weeks, because you already have 2 weeks worth here. So I thank everybody for watching. Hope I covered everything and answered your questions. We'll have more survival tips as we go, practical survival tips that cost virtually nothing. Thanks for watching. So long.